Now we're going to take a look at some of the capabilities that you have in Windows 10 for recovering files. Of course, if we're talking about recovering files, we must also be talking about backing up files, and that's certainly where we're going to start. Backing up files and data in general is going to be important in just about any case. Any machine has critical data. The question is, where is that data stored, and is it duplicated anywhere? And of course, in Windows 10, we do have some differences because of the heavy integration with OneDrive and potentially other cloud-based software. If that's where you're storing most of your information, then you may not have that much of a need to do backups. In a business environment, if you're storing the vast majority of information in the or on file servers, then you have to back up the file servers, but that's part of the network backup solutions and not part of Windows. But there are going to be cases where you got a home computer, you choose not to use OneDrive as your storage location or some other cloud-based solution. You've got critical data. I mean, for home users, it might just be pictures and documents and things like that, but those things are important. And so if it's important, then we need to back it up. We need to make sure that should it be lost, should we lose a hard drive, should we have a corrupt operating system, something like that, that we would be able to restore it. And then also we would like a mechanism in place so that if we accidentally overwrite a file, that we would be able to restore it. And so backups are important, protect against accidental deletions, provide recovery from malware infections, make sure the data is always available to you. And it also protects against total computer loss and provides potentially different versions of files and folders. The backup process really did change back in Windows 8 with the introduction of a new feature that exists in Windows 10 called File History. File History is an automatic backup that is able to be turned on for users, and you can back up information to a network location or ideally a removable storage device. It saves copies of files automatically and does so every hour by default. Now, it is a little different with a standard backup utility. You would be running a regular backup. That's one way in which File History is different. It's always running. It's running in the background, assuming that you turn it on. Another way that it's different is with a backup utility, you could actually tell it to back up particular files and folders. And that's not really the way that File History works. Instead, File History backs up particular libraries. Okay, now there are some folders included like contacts, favorites, desktops. Those are not libraries, but documents, pictures, video, music, those are all libraries. And so you don't have the ability to add additional folders, but as we've already seen, you can add folders or include folders into one of the virtual libraries. And if you do that, then it means that that information is going to be backed up automatically for you. It really couldn't be simpler. This is just something that we need to be aware of and something that we need to turn on. You do still have access to the Windows Backup utility. It's in Control Panel. It's listed as Windows Backup from Windows 7. I'm not really sure why the label there. I think they're just alluding to the fact that File History is kind of the recommended way of doing backups, but you can still do a manual backup if you'd like. You can go in and set up the Windows Backup utility, give it a schedule so that it's running automatically, tell it where to back up to, that's network location or a local drive like an external drive, and you can go in and just perform an on-demand backup. And then that would be something that you would want to update from time to time. A couple other options that you have in there are to create a system image. A system image allows you to restore the contents of the system drive in case of failure. It's created by default when the Windows Backup utility is actually turned on, but you would probably want to update that option. The only other option to restore Windows in its entirety would be to reset the PC. Well, resetting the PC actually takes you back to the day that you started the PC for the first time. And so that's not really a backup. That's more of just a recovery tool. So the system image is going to have the entire contents of the system partition, and that's going to include data. You can also make a system repair disk with the Windows Backup utility. That's a disk that is going to be used to start the computer. So long as you have a DVD burner attached to the PC, then you'll be able to do that. It gives access to recovery options. Now, In a business environment, that's not really required because I can get a hold of the Windows 10 media, I can boot the system to that media, and then I'll have access to the recovery options. The thing is that a lot of times, most times, when you buy a PC that already has Windows on it, then you probably don't have the Windows 10 DVD. The media doesn't ship with it. It's pre-installed by the OEM. And so at that point, my only option to get into the system restore capabilities is to create a system repair disk. So let's take a look at file history here. Start there, but then we're going to talk about a couple of other things. The file history is just an area in Control Panel, and you can go in and essentially turn it on. Okay, now I've only got a removable flash drive, and it doesn't look like it likes that removable flash drive for whatever reason. Let me see if I can format that and get it fixed. So let's go into to here, and let's just do a quick format. It does want a device that has NTFS as the file system. That's not an issue, but it's also not normal for a flash drive. Okay, so maybe that was the issue there. And maybe not. So we'll go into file history. Okay, yeah, it doesn't like that drive for whatever reason. But basically all you would be doing here is clicking turn on. And then it's going to turn it on. Okay, it looks like it's attempting it. You know, I can run now. And then it would start the process. One thing you can do is go in here and exclude certain folders. You know, if you don't want some things backed up, you can do that. You can go into advanced settings and you can configure the every hour. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe you want to go every 10 minutes. How long do you want to keep saved versions? And you can clean this up. You can also recommend this in the home group, and that way other systems in your own home group can use this location. So, you know, if you get an external drive that's like 2 terabytes, connect it to one of the PCs and you can use it to back up more than one PC. And so, you know, if and when you needed to go in and restore, you could click Restore Personal Files, and it will show you the files that are there. All right, so it's just very simple. As I said, you can't add additional folders to it, but you can include additional folders in the libraries, and that will add them. Now, another option that we have that I hadn't mentioned, but just was going to show you, is an option called Previous Versions. And this is something that if you turn on, if you go to the properties of the disk, you don't see, well, you see a previous versions tab, right? And then it shows you the C drive. You can click on open or open in file history. Okay? What this is giving you the ability to do is create snapshots. So where we actually have to go is to System Restore. This is a function of the System Restore, and this is turned off. The only reason that showed a previous version was because of the file history. But what you can do is you can go in and you can configure this to turn on system protection, all right? And then to choose a certain amount of space that you're going to use for these restore points. Once you've done that and restore points start to be created, then you'll have previous versions of files and folders. This has been invaluable to me in the past because I've accidentally, I've opened up a document and I was going to duplicate it and save it as a different file name, and I accidentally just hit the save. And so what I did was I overwrote the original document, which I really still wanted. It's quick and easy to get back. You basically just go into the previous versions tab, and then you can view that previous version. You can restore it, or you can have both copies. If you've deleted a file, you can go into a previous version of the folder and restore the file from the snapshots that are created, as well as when you've overwritten. So both file history and that shadow copies or previous versions client are really important when it comes to backing up and recovering files. One more thing, let's go look at the backup utility. Windows Backup, which, as I said, is labeled Backup and Restore Windows 7. You can set up a backup and that'll start the process. Basically, that's just allowing you to set up a schedule. say this is where I want to back up to, or I want to save on the network. And then you can either let Windows choose, which is basically backing up everything and a system image, or you can choose, and you can back up individual things, okay? So we would say exactly what we want to do, and then we could save settings and run the backup. Now you can also just, as I said, run a backup and just choose. At that point, you would be just shown the different locations. You can choose whether or not to include a system image in your backup, and then you can run that on demand. System repair disk, it's going to air out because I don't have a CD burner, but I mean, there's nothing to this. You basically just choose the drive, you put in a blank DVD, and you burn a system repair disk. So all of those things are really easy to do, but this is one of those things, you've got to think of this ahead of time. You know, it doesn't do you any good if you think of it after a failure. So identify if there's something important that's not being stored in or synchronized to another location. And if it is, then we want to take advantage of these backup capabilities so that if we have a loss, we have the ability to recover.